from the next panel when they come up, and I'm just proud to the Noble Women was partnering with the Black Women's Roundtable to get these very important issues addressed. And might I say, addressed up front. Too many times we are behind the power curve, and that curve is coming. And our constituents, as elected officials, said, why were we in front of that issue? So this is why this is extremely important. So I'm excited to hear the dialogue. I'm grateful to be here. I'm glad I was able to fill in for our president. So, thank you all for having me, and I look forward to the rest of the conversation.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, our sisters. And thank you, Melanie, for your continued awesome leadership. We praise God for bringing us all here safely. There's no guarantee that you're going to be safe anywhere, so we don't want to take this for granted. I am Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner, and I'm co-chair of the National African American Clergy Network. We're comprised of the 8 traditional African American denominations known as the Black Church, representing collectively 13 million African Americans around the country. And just to talk about the power of our vote, in 2014, using our own Black Church toolkit, we were able to mobilize in a Freedom Sunday campaign in just 6 weeks over 3,500 churches, which touched over 1 million Black voters with our toolkit across the country through all of these networks. And in the election of 2014, when other people did not show up, we showed up powerfully by 1% and 2% in places like Kentucky and Louisiana. So don't tell me what we as a people cannot do working together. This is amazing. I mean, this voter guide is so important. I mean, our toolkit talked to people about what are the 10 things you should know before you go to the polls. This toolkit of the Black Women's Roundtable is so vital for African Americans to know who to vote for and why to vote. And don't assume it's going to be the same old party going forward, particularly with our younger people with whom we work. This election is going to decide what kind of nation we're going to be, what kind of values we're going to uphold. Will we value? This is the question when we look at this. All lives in matters of criminal justice, housing, support of our Black colleges, affordable care, health care, poverty prevention, or will we be a nation that keeps setting up boundaries, name calling, and castigating some citizens so that some lives don't really matter? That's the question. And it doesn't matter if Barack Obama is or is not going to be on the polls. African Americans through our voter guide will help our people to understand that what's at stake is on the ballot.
That's right.
What's at stake for Black Americans is the candidate. It doesn't matter who else is on that candidate. When I looked at Melanie, the Center for American Progress report about Black women's vote, we're the ones showing up. The other day it was stated that in South Carolina, it sounded like 80% of African Americans are voting for one candidate, but only 58% of white women. In other words, Black women are outvoting everybody. But the question is, will we show up with a level of enthusiasm? And that's what the Black Women's Roundtable is about, is that we got a reason to fight. We got a reason to coalesce. We got a reason to rally. And we've got a reason to make sure that the next generation is better than ours. We praise you and we thank you for this kind, Melanie, and for bringing us together. Thank you.
And thank you. And we're going to move right into our panel discussion. And so we'll ask our co-host to step down and our panelists to come up. And I'm going to move over and let Vanessa do what she does well and moderate and bring the ladies up.
proud partner with Black Women's Roundtable. To be a part of this whole conversation around the election 2016. Obviously, we cannot overstate the importance of the Black youth vote and the importance of the power that we wield. And so this conversation that we're having today will really illustrate how the candidates have addressed the issues that are of importance to us. The Black Women's Roundtable Power of the Sister Vote panel includes an analysis of the responses that we received from several presidential candidates, what candidates must do to win Black women's vote, and what Black women are doing to leverage our voting power in the 2016 presidential election cycle, not just on a national level, but also on the state and local level as well. Deborah mentioned that earlier, and I do want to re-emphasize that point because it is critical that we don't think about this just on the national level, but actually thinking about our state and local levels where it really impacts the most on us, on our every day-to-day. That's critical. So we can't ignore that or pass that over. With that, I want to say this panel is going to do a deeper dive on the responses we got from the presidential candidates. We have assembled some of the smartest and sharpest women out there. And I'm so honored to be able to moderate this panel and to introduce our panelists to you. So as I introduce you, please come forward and take a seat on the panel. First, we have Denise Roloff-Barnes, who is the chair of the NNPA and publisher of the Washington Reformer. Denise, please join us. Holly Holliday, Esquire, National Campaign Manager at MCCP. And co-host of 360. Thank you, Holly, for being here. Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, President and CEO of Insight Unlimited LLC, and a regular contributor to Roland Martin News One Now. Thank you, ladies. April D. Ryan, White House correspondent, AURN, author of The Presidency in Black and White, and let's just say, the recent recipient of the NAACP nomination. Let's celebrate that. And oh, by the way, April is an Essence.com contributor. Tara Setmeyer, CNN contributor and contributor to Blaze TV. Tara, we're so happy to be here with us. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eli Kenny, I love your name. Black Youth Vote Alumni Group and Environmental Justice Expert. Thank you. Let's just get right into it. So, as we stated before, the Black Women's Roundtable invited several Democratic and Republican candidates to respond to their domestic policy questionnaire. And the following candidates submitted written responses. We received responses from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Senator Bernie Sanders, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, and Republican candidates, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, brain surgeon Ben Carson, and Ohio Governor John Kasich. So please share with us, as we go along this road, we're going to start to my immediate right and move down. Please share with us a brief analysis of what you learned from their responses and where you feel these presidential candidates stand on issues that are important, of importance to Black women.
So from reading the responses, one thing that I immediately noted was the difference in this election cycle being that the responses are very critical. So your responses aren't just, yes, I care about this. Should we have health care? Yes, that's wonderful. Right, that's a great pitch, but at the end of the day, that doesn't speak to any policies. It doesn't speak to what will you do as president to make sure that this happens. And so I saw a lot of either speaking to previous experience. So you would see a statement like, as governor, and showing a list of what I've already done. So looking at what is kind of an actual resume, as opposed to kind of just words, just talking, pretty speech about things that we wish we could do as president. So you're seeing candidates really aggressively respond in a manner that is actually something they can put forth, saying, I will do these 3 things, policy-wise. Here's how I will implement it. Here's how I will pressure Congress. Here's what I will do. And I think that's a very strong and aggressive approach to actually accomplishing the kind of goals that we want to see in an elected official. Additionally, I saw a very thorough response from some of the candidates to many of the issues. So when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to criminal justice reform, you know, if you say something like, do you think there should be disparities? No, that's bad. That's a wonderful thing, you know, that's a wonderful thing to say, but there's no like real meat behind it. So I saw a lot of meat and potatoes, if you will, in their responses and saying really aggressively how they will respond to it, what they're going to do, what they intend to do, what they agree with, what they disagree with. You know, whether you're on their side or not, you know exactly where they stand, what this person is going to do in response to this issue as your elected official. So I thought that was a very, very good, very great way to be able to critically analyze a presidential candidate and know what they would do in office and kind of who deserves your vote.
Well, looking through this, what I noticed, what stood out to me the most was the lack of responses. And as a conservative and as a woman of color and someone who's been involved in politics since I was 18 years old, I lived in Washington for 20 years. I went to George Washington University. I was a rabble-rouser on campus there as CCR, Vice President of the College of Republicans. I mean, I've been involved in Republican conservative politics for over 20 years. And I have, frustratingly, every election cycle, sat back and watched how the Republican Party has failed in its engagement with the minority community. Continually. Now, yes, there's piecemeal efforts here and there, and every once in a while you'll see a couple weeks before an election a bunch of black ads on radio somewhere, which are usually insulting and ridiculous, and expect people to move the needle. That is not how you embrace people and communities and tell them, yes, we care about you, your issues, and here are our solutions, and why we think they're better. Because there are a lot of problems that have been going on consistently for generations that have yet to be addressed, that we think that Democratic policies have failed the Black community. However, you can't expect people to even listen to you if you don't show up. And that is, and looking at this, I just said to myself, I just went like, again? You know, this is a crucial election. We are at a crossroads in this country on a number of fronts, from national security on down to economics. And people say that every election cycle, but no, this time it's really more pronounced than others. And particularly in the Black community, there have been a lot of, you know, everyone's very proud of Barack Obama's presidency or whatever. I mean, I have a different take on that. But if we look at the metrics, Black folks haven't fared too well under Barack Obama in a lot of areas. So, how do we fix that? How do we address those things? From median income, from the fact that 20% of small businesses lending in minority communities are down, to education gaps that are widening, to income gaps that are widening. All of these things happened under Barack Obama. So how do we change that? And I think people are listening finally. But when you have an opportunity like this right here, and you pass it up for Republicans to even just give more than a one-word answer, I mean, I just looked at this and I shook my head and I said, and they wonder why.
And know this, we put what people gave us.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't summarize.
I believe it.
That was the pledge we made.
No, I believe that.
Whatever they said, that's what's in the book. That's why it's so big.
And you know what? Good for you. Because they need to be held accountable for not having a presence. It says to me that these campaigns for the major candidates do not have the apparatus in place to address these coalition needs. Because, you know, even though I know there's a lot going on, I'm not gonna make excuses for them, but I've been involved in campaigns, I know how it goes. They're worried about Donald Trump and primary votes and all this craziness that's happening, so they figure, well, we don't have time for this. Black folks aren't voting for us in the primary anyway, so we'll get to it when we get to it. That's the cynical side. But it's more than just a numbers game. People's lives are at stake. Livelihoods are at stake. Communities are at stake. So it should be a priority. And the fact that it wasn't was very disappointing for me. And I think that that's where it starts. You cannot expect people to listen to you because we have solutions that I think would work and that would be beneficial. but no one's gonna listen to you if you don't show up. And I'm hoping that as things start to settle out a little bit, that the candidates will eventually submit their responses, because I think every one of these questions is important and should be answered more clearly. And as a conservative and a Republican, I will try to do my best policy-wise to answer for them. But the fact that they weren't, I think, should be called out, and it's not, as for me, as a minority female, acceptable.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here, and not only is it an honor to be here, I'm trying my best to be a reporter because I am a black woman. I'm a black woman, I'm a daughter of a black woman, a granddaughter, a niece of a black woman, cousin of a black woman. So I understand the plight of black women. I'm a mother to princesses to be black queens. So looking at this great document, this document for history's sake, with my journalist hat on, it's very interesting. One, we have to look at it as each candidate who has participated, which I'm thankful to see each candidate had participated, even if they gave one word in their answer. It shows to some extent that they care, but I mean, when you delve in to see those who give you long responses, they're hungry for your vote. And we have to understand that those who vie for the black vote need to be hungry for the vote because we are a subset of the largest group of voters in this nation, women. And we as women bear the brunt of some of the highest negatives in almost every category. I report on this. I'm not saying this from insight, but I report on this, I see this. So, as women, this is very important because going back in history, Melanie is now taking the torch, and she marches every day into that White House and talks to the president as the president. Black women have been on the table during this president, but black women's issues have also been on the table since Eleanor Roosevelt. And who was that? Dorothy Height. So our issues are very important. And the candidates who refused or did not submit, that needs to be taken into account. Major account, seriously. And not only that, we have issues that we bear the brunt of the highest negatives. And going into this election cycle, I really thought it was going to be all about the Hispanic vote. No. It's about us. So this document is very important. I mean, for instance, Jeb Bush, asking about education. Entitlements addressed only. What's that? But at least he did say, yes, I'm coming. You go into Mark Amount, he's this is one page right here, page 65. He is just on health and reproductive justice. He's given us a soliloquy. He's hungry. He's hungry, one, because he has very little. He's got 2%. Three people, yeah. But you have to look at the totality of this. So does Jeb Bush. Yeah, that's true. But he did try. And that's another thing. Looking at each party. You can't just look at the candidate, you also have to look at what the party stands for. Because the candidate can say one thing, you learned this with W. He wanted to do more in Africa and talk about Africa, but the party was not thinking about going to the black vote because we were not his base. So you have to not only just look at what they say, look at what they do. Look at what they're saying out here and also look at the party that they're with. So I encourage you to read, to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, but I hope I've shed some light on the history and current day of the importance of black women.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, hunger doesn't necessarily mean desperation. I mean, hunger is opportunity, right? Hunger is a chance for us to really see what they are willing to do for us, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, my reactions are very similar to what you've heard thus far. As I sort of peruse the responses here, I will, specifically make note that for example, the Republican candidates, I did find it interesting that Ben Carson was the only one to basically answer every question. And I'm glad that he took the time to answer every question, but quite frankly, I wish he would have really answered every question. Because I felt like I was reading the responses of, that Batman character, the Riddler. Everything was answered in riddles. What do you really mean by what you're saying?
Right.
Okay, so
it's not good enough just to have words splashed on a paper. I can read and comprehend if you put words on a piece of paper that actually makes sense. Okay? And so I think it's important that we look for substance and not just to show up in the room. I want to see substance, and I did not see any substance in his responses, but I will say, at least their responses. It is a shame. We do have primarily a two-party system in this nation, and I believe that black people, to be perfectly honest with you, are held hostage when we are stuck in a position where we have one party that takes us for granted and another party that totally ignores us. That does not do us any favors. Our vote should actually be up for grabs in such a way that both parties are vying for our vote. And that will put more pressure, quite frankly, on the Democratic Party to do what it's supposed to do if the Republicans would step up. Now, I would say that, I wish like a Colin Powell was here because I think I would have got some substantive answers, okay? But given that that's not the case, with what I have and looking then specifically at substance, I would have to say that a couple of things that stood out to me that I thought were very, very sort of new ideas in a sense, revolutionary. I was interested to see that Hillary Clinton, for example, was proposing a significant increase in funding specifically to HBCUs. As an HBCU graduate, I was very excited to see that, and even if you're not an HBCU graduate, the reality that HBCUs produce the majority of black professionals really should mean that we need to preserve these institutions. And so I was so excited to see that she is specifically looking at providing significant additional funding to HBCUs to support them at a time in which we know they need it, and quite frankly, to provide an avenue towards college, towards a quality college education for many people who might not have it otherwise. Another sort of response that really stood out to me was Bernie Sanders in terms of his responses around the 21st century policing and specifically what we can do now as it relates to all of the challenges that we're facing across the country with regards to police brutality. I was happy to see that he's not only talking about, as many of the candidates talk about, really specifically trying to implement the president's 21st century policing report recommendations, but he sort of takes that up a notch further, and he says that, to the degree that states and localities do not implement the changes that he's looking to implement, he would actually defund a lot of the funding that they're receiving from the federal government. And that caught my attention, because money talks, and you know what walks. And so I am super excited to see that he's talking about actually saying, I'm not asking you to train better, I'm not just asking you to put on body cameras. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're not going to get our money. And as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay somebody to potentially kill my son. Okay? And so I'm excited to see that he has put some teeth behind that in a way that I think it needs to be. And so, I definitely want to encourage you to read through this document thoroughly. I want to thank Melanie and the foresight of NCBCP for putting this document together, because at a time like this, we need to make very sound decisions about who we give our vote to. We really do. And a document like this will help us to be able to go through with a fine-tooth comb just about any issue that you can imagine, everything from Social Security to poverty reduction to reproductive rights. It's all in here, and I encourage you to take the time to read through it thoroughly and make your decisions wise. Thank you.
Holly. So, I can definitely reflect some of the frustration of the other panelists, but I want to focus too on some insights and lift up some things that I found particularly interesting. First, sort of one thing for me, like many people in the Generation X group, I'm sort of in that sandwiched generation of aging parents as well as children underneath. And so the response on Social Security, interestingly enough, I was gratified to see support for it across the board, and that every response was positively in favor for strengthening and growing Social Security. Of course, I was particularly impressed with some of the more thoughtful responses but the fact that the entire, across the board, across the aisle, Republicans and Democrats had answered, gave me hope that maybe Social Security and support for Social Security in the long run is not as in dire place as we need, because when we think about some of the risk to our financial health, taking care of aging parents is definitely a drain, and I certainly identify with that personally, as well as we see it over and over again in the survey work and the issue work that we do out in the field. So that was very gratifying. So that's my plus from the report. And I'm looking forward to more in-depth response from other candidates around that issue, as well as many of the others. And I will say, we do at the Black Women's Roundtable have a commitment to continue to pursue this, because this really isn't about the candidates. What this is about is making sure that Black women have the information that they need to make an informed decision. And so we need to do, and will continue to do, what we have to do to pull out the information by any means necessary to make sure that we can go into that voting place with real information, that we don't have to guess. So I hope that you all will use the website as a ongoing way to keep informed. And also, we hope that you'll communicate with us using the website, because we can maybe reach out, and we're looking to engage them in a deeper way and sort of hold meetings with campaigns to ask them even deeper questions. And of course, if you have ideas about that, we welcome that. The other thing that stood out to me, frankly, was Hillary Clinton's response in relationship to entrepreneurship. And again, it's no accident that I'm focusing on some of the economic issues, because for Black women, we are the economic drivers in our community and have responsibilities to pay for this. So I was really excited and glad that she lifted out a little known tax credit called the New Markets Tax Credit. And I remember when this passed under President Clinton, and I look forward to its reauthorization. So I'm really happy to look at ways to bring back ideas that we know work. And I agree, it has been a financial challenge for African American households over the last 10 years, and so we know to look back to eras of more greater prosperity and pull out ideas that we know work speak volumes to me.
Yes, thank you. And I want to thank Melody and the Black Women's Roundtable for including me in this conversation. And now that I represent over 200 African American newspapers across the country, I know that this document will be very instrumental in the stories that we will be producing and are producing as it relates to the way that candidates speak to Black America. And so, true confession number one, I have not had the opportunity to really delve deeply into this report. And so, I, will take the advice of others on this panel and also offer that advice, that we do dive deeply into this report. But just at a glance, one of the things that stands out to me is, when you ask a question, you're looking for an answer to your question, right? And not only looking for the answer to your question, but you're hoping that people will notice who's asking the question. And so, while we were very critical of President Obama for not speaking to Black America, I'm looking through some of these responses to find questions that speak to Black women. I want to see the word Black. I am not just a people of color. I'm not just a minority. I am a Black woman. And so, and there are issues, which is what I think the Black Women's Roundtable is the reason for doing this guide, is to show how the candidates will speak to issues that affect Black women. I didn't see see too many of those responses. But what did impress me in my glancing was one response that I thought hit a home run, and that is with regards to O'Malley's response to expanding, again, I'm interested in economics and business and entrepreneurship, but about, it's about contracts and federal contracts. And in his response, he says, which I give him credit for, I can see it, I would do the same as president, so I guess he means the president, Barack Obama, including, did he really write this? I was impressed until I realized I can't read it. I would do the same as president, oh, I got it, I would do the same as president, including so that the federal government is able to determine the share of federal contracts that Black and other women of color-owned businesses receive. Then he goes further, which means he's answering your question. I would encourage organizations like the Black Women's Roundtable to use that data to hold my administration accountable for increasing that share over the course of my administration. His response is inviting this organization to be a part of the decisions that he makes should he become president. Well, we know that may not happen, but the point is, you want the organization to be acknowledged. You want the people in this organization to be acknowledged, and you want these candidates who we know probably didn't answer these questions themselves. They had their staffs who do it. That's why you had all these apologies in the back that are saying, I think one person said, it's not our policy for our campaign to answer questionnaires. They're just too many. That's not a good answer. So, I just can't be through, like I said, I'm looking for responses. And I think we all are. That's what this whole Black Lives Matter movement is all about. To tell people that you can't group us. We want to be spoken to. We want to be seen. We want to be addressed. We want our issues. Exactly. We want to be respected. So, I'll give them a C for at least responding to the questions. And I think it's important that we continue to press these candidates, not only that are running for president, but in all these offices that the Black Women's Roundtable is reaching out to make sure that they speak to our issues. The other thing is, clarity. I think it's been, it's helpful that the survey was taken so that we know what our issues are. And this begins that conversation. I think that we as women, we Black women particularly now, and going forward, we haven't been doing it already, to have these conversations with our daughters, our parents, how do you really feel about Social Security and who among the candidates, this should be on our dining room table during the holidays. We should just have this report here and ask some of these questions to our friends and family members. And if there are responses or even more questions that come from this conversation, send them know so they can,
if you have it, you can tweet. There's a response feed. Twitter feed. Put it on the Twitter feed.
And I was asking about hashtag because I think that would be good if we can just send those questions to the hashtag. Let's start a conversation in the dialogue.
We've got a number of them on the flyer here.
Okay.
Hashtag BWR 2016, hashtag Power of the Sister Vote, and our essence hashtag is hashtag We Decide. We are deciding this. Let's own the power that we have. And a part of owning that power is demanding that people engage with us and demanding that people are accountable. So shifting into our next question, and I want to start with you, Denise, what do you think it will take for the candidates? What do candidates have to do in order to win with Black women in 2016? What are some things that they should be paying attention to?
I mean, I think what I just said earlier is that they need to talk to us. And we're so accustomed and grown accustomed to people to assuming that response to questions include us. And I always use the example, which Ron and I use in the newspaper business. It's like we are the occupant or the recipient. And then a piece of mail you get that comes to your house, and it says occupant or resident or neighbor. It's throw it away. You're gonna open those envelopes. You know, we want the envelope that has our name on it. We're gonna open that up. And so we really have to figure out, and I'm so glad that Congresswoman is here, former Congressman, who can tell us essentially how do we get these folks to answer questions, because our president didn't do such a good job of that over a period of time, talking directly to Black people. There's something that seems to be wrong or politically incorrect to really talk about or talk to Black folks unless it's really crisis issues. And so we've got to find a way to get them to feel comfortable to say Black women.
That's really fair. It's going to take for them to win. Well, I think, one of the reasons that we decided to do this is because as we learned through our research and our partnership with Essence, is that women, particularly black women, were not as interested in the personality of the candidate. What they really wanted to know is what are the ideas. And so what it's going to take is not just a response. Absolutely, you need to speak to us. But when you speak to us, say something. Present an idea. Address the concerns that we're raising. We are not a monolithic community. One of the other reasons that we want to do this, and why we'll continue to push for answers from every viable candidate and every candidate that stays in the race, is because we also are seeing people pull away from what has traditionally been a Democratic base, and particularly amongst millennials. And so in order to make sure that we are servicing our community, we need ideas. We have real issues and real concerns, and what we're looking for are real solutions. So the first step, talk to us. The second step, say something.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to carry this train on out. Both are absolutely spot on, and just to sort of continue that argument, when you do speak to us, obviously from our previous partnership with Essence, we found out specifically what Black women wanted to know. So, for example, if healthcare is our major concern, and the reason why it's our major concern, let me just say, from some research that we've done at BWR around our State of Black Women report, we know that Black women are disproportionately impacted and concentrated in those states that have specifically rejected the expansion of ACA, such that they're not able to get health care. They're sort of caught in that sort of in-between space between Medicaid and being able to afford ACA. So they're in this sort of desert without that service, and they need it. So when you speak to us, specifically say exactly what are you going to do to penetrate that problem that's specifically attacking our community. Specifically, what are you going to do to make sure that we have access to fair wages? I mean, you look at the fact that Black women are the most likely demographic group of women in America to work, and have been like forever, right? But we have yet to be paid fairly. What are you going to do about that to make sure that we get paid fairly for the labor that we provide, the very critical labor that we provide? And then beyond that, what are you going to do in terms of this issue of Black Lives Matter? When you're talking about the millennial vote, they are rightfully saying, you got to earn my votes. So speak to us with specifics and with substance about what are you going to be doing about our brothers and sisters being killed on the street. What are you going to do? So we are into substance. We want specifics. We are not there for the chill game. And we are not there for the platitudes. We want to know specifically what are you going to do to impact our lives, to impact our futures, and create a better prospects for our children moving ahead.
Are you hearing about specifics? Yeah, I actually am. Our issues are in the news, on the table, and making a lot of news. And some candidates are actually coming and talking to Black leaders, and the audience are like, oh wow. So we have to look at that. And I'm going back to this great tool that you have, and I'm looking at diversity, starting like page 91, 92, and going into first issues, and I'm going into 96. And I'm thinking of something that's been going on recently. You might have heard about it. Hillary Clinton met with the mothers of the victims of gun violence, publicized tragic gun violence, like Trayvon Martin's mother and the others recently. And she gets an A grade from me because she seems to care. She understands. She seems to understand. Hillary Clinton comes out saying, as president, I consider nominating a black woman to the U.S. Supreme Court. That was very bold and forward. George W. Bush, not after. I mean, not George Jeb. Forgive me. No, don't say that. Be nice. So, I'm talking to some of the candidates. I covered him for 8 years, so forgive me. Any Bush down was like W, but forgive me. But I say this to say, the candidates who pointedly come out and say this is what we will do, we have to really listen. Not only that, and I'm not on the Hillary Clinton bandwagon, but I'm telling you what I from my reporting, I look at the campaigns. Look at the campaigns. How many African Americans are actively at high tier levels in the campaigns? Because those people will be decision makers going into the Oval Office, going into the White House, going into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We asked during the Congressional Black Caucus weekend, we had a chance to meet with Hillary Clinton's folks, and we said, I said, what is going to change? You said all this, what is going to be different when it comes to the landscape? And she said, we're going to have a diverse administration with diverse ideas, gender-wise, sexual orientation-wise, religious-wise. I mean, she was talking, she seems to be walking her speed. So we have to see who is walking the walk and who's talking the talk. So, and I think all of this, go into this diversity, the pages dealing with diversity, that tells a lot when it comes to our issues. Because if they see another child shot in Chicago or another child shot in Baltimore and they don't talk about it in the debate, if they don't talk about it in the news, they're not going to think about women's issues. We are the mothers crying over those children. So I say all this to say, it's more than just one piece to the puzzle. It's cyclical.
Yeah, so it's a lot. But look, the issue with just even showing up, unfortunately, has been one that's been challenging. But absolutely right. Once you're there, then have something to say. And I think that there are missed opportunities so far, and I hope that the campaigns get it together, and as we get into 2016, that they recognize that there are some top tier issues that Republicans actually have legitimate solutions to, that people, that there's common ground on some issues here. It's really not an us versus them. It really isn't on some very important issues, particularly economics and even criminal justice reform now. I mean, you've got Senator Chuck Grassley, who is supporting a bipartisan bill in the Senate on criminal justice reform. I mean, most people would think of Chuck Grassley as being the person that's reaching across the aisle on issues that affect the Black community, Right, and what they are, they recognize that, this is an issue that needs to be addressed. But you don't hear it. You don't hear enough of it because you don't have enough messengers who have credibility that can go out and say, listen, this is what we're actually doing. Instead, there's a broad brush that Republicans don't care. And that's not true, and it's unfortunate. But it's a self-inflicted wound that I would hope that some of the candidates,
Donald Trump.
I try not to, it's Trump all the time, on CNN, and I just don't, he's a problem, and believe me, those of us who have sense recognize the problems that he represents.
Let's talk about that, because
Sure.
it seems like the person who is the person who says the most outrageous things is the one who gets the most airtime.
And so so therefore you're not gonna hear from the Republican candidates.
Don't
who
disagree.
have something to say that to us.
Right.
So how do you push past that? It seems like there's a start because, of what Paul Ryan said yesterday. And
Yes.
what other people are starting to say, like, this is not Cheney,
Yeah,
you.
yeah. You got Dick
saying-
Cheney and Hillary Clinton on the same side of the issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're trying to like combat that. They don't want to be lumped into a
Yeah,
pool. So what is it gonna take for all of the, for all those other candidates to be heard?
Well, unfortunately, media is a business, and Donald Trump is big dollars in the media business. I don't make the decisions on what we talk about on cable news, but I am there as a commentator to push back on some of those things to put them in perspective. And I think that's part of the frustration for a lot of the top tier candidates from, Kasich and Rubio and Jeb and Ted Cruz trying to break out from the Donald Trump just oversaturation. He really literally has sucked the oxygen out of this campaign for Republican candidates. Because, Marco Rubio has a plan about paid family leave. He has a plan about low to middle income tax credits and tax reform. He has a plan about education and promoting more vocational schools and things in different areas that would affect us. But nobody hears about these things. Nobody hears. I know, and I'm saying right. And then here you have
it so we can hear it, yeah.
Yeah.
right. He didn't answer, which is unfortunate. That's right.
He does have a plan.
Right.
And we're interested in.
Absolutely, which is why I started my comments off. No, which is why I started my comments off, and I felt that it was very, it was unfortunate and frustrating for me that those candidates like a Marco Rubio, who really does have a broader appeal, he's not a Donald Trump, he has a chance to appeal across the aisle to folks, and here he blew his campaign, because it's possible he didn't even know. It's the campaign, and it goes on down, Ted Cruz, all the rest of them, but it's a missed opportunity that I'm sick and tired of seeing them do.
A lot of your candidates, I hate to say, are scared to come out and support anything African American or black because they feel they will not get the majority of the vote. You're seeing it, and it's true.
I don't disagree.
I don't think it's a missed
opportunity.
opportunity. I don't think it's as easy or minimized to a missed opportunity. I think it's a position not to respect black women enough
Exactly.
to answer the report question.
This kind of
Oh,
bill, this kind
yeah.
of
Let me
talk to the masses.
Hold on one second. Because we're not gonna do crossfire.
Right.
But we're going to continue to push those who have folks, because these campaigns, if you know folks, then whatever responses we get, we will continue to do that. We're assuming that they're hearing us. We got people in here that hear us, and we're gonna keep pushing. The election's not today. First election is February 1st.
Right. Let me just conclude, and then so I can pass it along to my fellow panelists here. Part of the reason why I'm now the opinion page editor of a new website called Bold. And the target of Bold is bold.global. We just launched last week. It's targeting minorities and millennials with the conservative, moderate to conservative leaning in issues, solutions, voices, because there has not been enough diversity within the conservative side of things to get out to non-traditional constituencies, as we call them. So I thought it was important that, and Carrie Sheffield, who started it, felt it was important that those ideas need to be heard. If the candidates aren't going to do it themselves, then there needs to be there are those of us out there who are willing to take that mantle up and get the message out so people at least can hear what some of our solutions are. It's enough about diagnosing the problem. You need to present solutions, and I think that there's an opportunity for that in this election particularly. So,
Thank you.
no, candidates, absolutely, but don't worry, this is going to be something I'm going to bring up. In fact, this is so ridiculous.
Certainly not.
Yes. Okay. So I think that for me, I'm definitely a millennial. I'm the most undecided voters because I'm an independent voter. No one has my vote. You earn my vote. And I think Dr. Jones-Weaver was absolutely accurate. That's how millennials feel. At the end of the day, I earn my paycheck. I go to work, I do the work. You earn my vote. It's not given. It's not guaranteed. It's up for grabs. Anybody can have it. I don't care what your party is. You can have no party. If you're doing what I want, you earn my vote. So when I was 15, I went to Venezuela. At the time, Chavez was running for president. We were in like the middle of somebody's hood. You know, like I'm playing basketball. Like we're not supposed to be here. We're here for like, you know, a global conference. We're supposed to be behind somebody's security gates, you know, but we don't follow rules really. You know, black people don't find each other no matter where we are. So we're hanging out, and so we have a translator. They're speaking Spanish, we speak in English, and we're saying like, you know, how's the elections going? What are you guys doing? Like, how do you feel about who's going to be president? They said, we don't care. I don't care who's president. Because at the end of the day, it's my country. You do what I want. If you don't, I will replace you. Simple. And I've taken that philosophy into how I vote. Every year, from 18 until present, I vote based on my issues. If you're not doing what I want, I will replace you, period. And I think that that's not necessarily the tactic or the voice that we put forward. A lot of it is who's responding, who's not responding. My question is always, what are you going to do? It's great to say, I think there should be criminal justice reform. It's great to say, I'll fund HBCUs. How? Where's the money going to come from? At the end of the day, I'm minded in economics. I want to know where the money's coming from. I want to know where it's going, but I want to know where it's coming from. Do I need to pay more taxes to fund my degree? I mean, I could have paid for that myself. I'm doing it. So it's really
You sound like a Republican. Where's my money coming from?
I'm not a
See, there's more common ground than you think.
But I do have a lot of common ground with some Republicans because at the end of the day, you know, I like tight purse strings. I don't like to spend a lot of money. I like to be very conservative with how I spend it and spend it well. That doesn't mean funding, you know, things I think are unnecessary, like a militarized response would happen to me in Ferguson being tear gassed by my own government. That I don't want to fund. But, you know, I'm going to be realistic about what I will fund, what I won't fund, and how I want to fund it. But I do want to know critically, what are you going to do? How are you going to get it done? Who are you going to hire to do it? These are the questions I want answers to. And right now, I'm not seeing a lot of answers from a lot of the candidates. But what I can say is from the answers that we have received, I'm seeing actually meat and potatoes. I'm seeing real responses to saying, here's what policy I will put forth. Here's what panels I'm going to put together. Here are the people that I think should be behind this. Here's the suggestions I'm going to follow. And I think that without that, I can't be an informed voter. So I think I want to see more of that from every single candidate. And the more that I get, the more likely they are to get my vote.
So that's a great segue, thank you for that, into our last final question, which is all about leveraging our power, right? The presidential primaries began on February 1st, as Melanie said earlier, February 1st, 2016, with the Iowa caucus. And the first primary that has a significant black voting population is South Carolina, that hosts its presidential primary on February 28th. So since the primaries determine who will be nominated to represent their party for the general election on November 5th, where the country will elect the next president, what are black women doing, or what should we be doing to leverage our voting power to ensure that our issues are addressed by the candidates for president as well as for Congress, gubernatorial, state legislatures, and local elections? What should we be asking, expecting, demanding, quite honestly? Let's
So,
start with you.
I think what we need to do is be very aggressive. So, you know, while we all have our issues with Donald Trump, he had sense enough to get some black people together and talk to him on camera. I mean, let's be realistic. Like, even Donald Trump realizes you can't win it without us. So we have to put the pressure on it. When it comes to getting justice for hashtag whoever's killed next, it might be me. The only way we get it is by being on Twitter, by being aggressive. There's no way that if we put a full court press, if it's hashtag respond to this survey at Donald Trump, at every political candidate, every single day, at some point they have to respond. Mass media responds to the will of the people. What do the people want to see? That's what they put on the television. It's how it works. What will you buy? And at the end of the day, what we're buying is answers. So we have to find a way to get them. And the way to get them is to be able to put that pressure on candidates to respond to the questions that we need answers. So you can't let it float. It's not one of those things where it's like, I just won't answer it and then election day you gotta pick anyway. It's putting a full court press on every single candidate to make sure that they respond to all of our issues. And then once they respond, judging them based on their responses.
Yeah, it's action. It's definitely action. It's not just standing back and saying, well, they don't care, so forget it. Demand answers, and I think forums like this, voting guides like this, groups like who are represented in this room, Black women are a very powerful voting bloc. We've already seen that voter participation is so important, and getting people to understand that you hold your elected officials accountable. If you get the government, you vote for, or don't vote for. If you don't vote for them, that's a de facto vote for the other side. So I think that with what's been going on, you're going to see, especially when you have a presidential election, you have a down ballot, more participation anyway, because people are more focused and laser focused on what affects them every single day. But to stay vigilant on it, and absolutely demand answers. Now, we may not always agree on how to do that. We may not always agree on what those solutions are, but you can't have a dialogue if you don't engage in it, and that goes for both sides. And like I said, the candidates, I really hope that they recognize the value in addressing these issues and get to more specifics on them, because it is crucial, and there is an opportunity. It warms my heart to hear a millennial ask where the money's coming from. Because, that's oftentimes, it's free giveaways. Well, yeah, we're gonna have free college, we're gonna have free healthcare, ain't nothing for free. It comes from somewhere. I used to work on Capitol Hill, and my congressman used to say, come on, you wanna go take a tour of the money tree on the west lawn of the Capitol? I'll be sure to show it to you. People go, what? There's no money tree on the west lawn of the Capitol. It's hard tax dollars that fund these things. So it's encouraging, and that's why I said, starting things like Bold Global and getting more people out there to talk about that and ask these questions and targeting these demographics is great. And as long as we continue to have that kind of exchange and stay vigilant, I think that you will see the answers to your questions and the answers to what's important to the communities will start to come through. And if not, then don't vote for them. They don't deserve it.
I'm gonna come at it in a different way. I think we need to, as a group of people, engage, and this is also looking at it as a journalist, engage, come together and press, and use the old blueprint that we don't seem to use anymore, and that's the civil rights model. This was the most successful model in this nation globally, and every group has now picked up that blueprint. The LGBT community, the women's rights groups, immigration groups, and they've come together and been able to move mountains. And we, as a people, have walked away from our own blueprint. And I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to do a synopsis. And when I say come together, I mean it. I put in my book, this is proof. Bill Clinton said this. We had a soul food dinner with him, Black reporters in D.C. in the 90s. And I asked him, why didn't you apologize for slavery? He said, because Black people didn't come together. A sitting U.S. president said that. And I'm going to leave you with that.
Wow. Well, and just sort of to emphasize that point, it's really about focusing. Us being very specific about what our key issues are, because to the degree that April was talking about the success of other movements, I think that a big part of that is because they were able to condense down to one or two major issues that they were pushing like hell on. One or two major issues. And I think there really needs to be some sort of a little come to Jesus moment within our community around what are those one or two key issues that we are going to just raise hell on until we get some traction and some movement. That's one thing. The other thing is that when we do have situations where certain individuals claim to represent us and take photo ops with certain presidential candidates, we need to make sure that when they're in those rooms behind closed doors, they're actually talking about policy and not just smiling up in somebody's face. It does us absolutely no good just to have somebody standing behind the candidate to say that I was in a room with a candidate. Congratulations. Exactly, nice lobby. Congratulations. But, where's the meat? And if we have situations where we just kind of rubber stamp that and continue to subsidize that behavior every week by supporting those specific institutions that basically pimp us like that, that at the end of the day, we need to wonder, really, where should we be, who should we be supporting, and who should we not be supporting? At the end of the day, we need to make sure that when someone purports to be our leaders, that they're actually in a room reading. And if you're not doing that, then step aside and make room for the next person.
Studies show that as a community, Black people are really engaged. We show up to stuff. But when we don't see what we don't see anyone there representing us, and particularly when we don't see our issues reflected on the ballot, we just skip that part and move to something else. But it's not that we're not engaged. And I think one thing I would concretely that I would encourage us all to do, and there's still time in many states, and it actually we have this on our website. Under the Democratic conventions, under the conventions for both parties, Democrat and Republican, we actually have instructions on how to be a delegate. Being a delegate is where the decisions are made for these presidential, and particularly if you live in a closed primary state or a caucus state, which we also have listed in the guide and on the website. And if you live in one of those places and you want to really be part of the decision making, follow those steps. We've got the contact information, the email, and people that you can call to help you figure out how to be a part of that process. Even if you're not a delegate, being a part of the process to even be a delegate puts you in the room where the real decisions are made. And the reality is we're not always monolithic in our thinking. And we need Black women to stand up everywhere. We need them fighting in the streets. We need them sitting at the head of the boardroom, and we need them representing us as delegates on both sides of the aisle.
So, I remember the late Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, who talked about the double whammy, being Black and female. Well, for many of us, we have a triple whammy, which is we're Black, female, and we live in the District of Columbia. And so while we're at the party, we don't get to party. And so I think that's what keeps our community, particularly Black women in this community, very, very engaged in the political process. I think residents of the District of Columbia, and I'm wearing my Washington Forum hat now, are probably the most politically active group of people in one city, probably than any other city in the country. We are members of our ANCs. We're represented on the DC City Council. We are very, very active in our local Democratic organizations and ward organizations as well. And the most active, vibrant, exciting. If you want to see a party, come to a Ward 8 Dems meeting. I live in Ward 8. And believe me, you would not, based upon what you hear about my community, if you come to a Ward 8 Dems, it will put this audience almost to shame because it's like a place to be once a month. And so, and in those meetings, a lot of the issues are talked about. A lot of folks are asked to participate, and there's active engagement. But, you know, again, we have no vote. We have we can vote for President of the United States, and that's really it. We have a diehard woman that been working for us on Capitol Hill forever. She may be there forever. And I want to say she's doing a great job, but you know, in getting us more politically engaged, there's not a lot of incentive here simply because you can come to the party, as I said, but we can't party. But I think that it's important for us in Black press, and that's one of the things that we're stressing to our publishers. You know, one of the things that you talked about was not only looking at those who are involved in the campaigns, but where the money's going. And so once these campaigns start spending money, and Black press is right there at the table, hoping that it will be, and really pushing to make sure that it will be the recipient of some of those significant number of those campaign dollars. Historically, that has not happened. And so we have to use that civil rights momentum to keep us covering these elections. But we would hope that those who are in positions, and there were a group of Black women that met with Hillary not too long ago, this was last Friday or this Friday or whatever. But anyway, the question should have been then where are your dollars going? Who are you spending your dollars with? Is it black press? Is it black radio? Is it going to be black cable? Is it going to, and everybody wants to go digital because it's cheaper, but what are you going to do when you have all that money that's got to be spent? And so it would help us as black press to make sure that we get the stories told and we highlight what you've been doing in a lot of our newspapers across the country, who's involved in these campaigns, and to make sure that the issues that are in this document and others that folks are doing on a local level, those stories are being reported. So we want to document our participation and reinforce the fact that black women's lives matter.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I think we have time for a few questions, so that you guys can engage with the panelists. So we have about 10 minutes, okay? So we can take about 2-3 questions. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I first want to commend Melanie and Black Women's Roundtable for the struggle that continues and always will. When we get free and have power, we still gotta have it. Okay? This panel, wow. I served 32 years in public office, 18 in the state legislature, 14 here, retired, best time of my life right now. But for all of you and everything that you did, from bipartisan, I like that. Although Republicans gotta do more. I don't care how much money Trump got. This is the difference at the table. You gotta join something. You gotta be in something. You gotta let your voices be heard. Sometimes it's not always money. People are hurting all over America, black, white, brown, yellow. Come together on issues. Like you said, sister, and I like your stuff, all like oil, really. Brilliant, Denise. We can do this, but it's biting the apple off one bite at a time. You decide where you're going to bring people who think like you to be in there with you, you all can change that. You can't change the organization, you got 10 different things, but join the one that you like, from the inside out. Move those people out of office who up in there ain't doing nothing. Run for something. When black women at the table making no decision, the whole world changes. I'm just in awe, and I'm making my meetings sitting up in here. It is so good and refreshing to see all of you and all of you here. This is a masterpiece. Yeah. We got to get it out. And one who's done questionnaires, and now when I get them and they come in our office and our name, when everybody runs their office differently. These are the ones I'm going to answer, these are not. These are ones staff might answer, but I'm going to see everything the staff put out. You get about 50 of them, but they mean something, and everybody hit it in here. If they don't fill it out, they don't care nothing about you. I don't care what you say, whether it's the staff or not. If they don't hear from them, that's one thing. And if it's a yes, no, that's just about this much under that. Same response. Go with people who you know going to support you. There's a big field out here. Trump is blowing everything wide open. I'm glad he was in it at first. I'm kind of scared now. And he's talking about messing up the Republican Party. They're like, even the Koch brothers ain't playing right now. They're waiting to see who the nominee's going to be. But this is so right. And the money part, and that's what I did. I was on appropriations in this Congress. Billions of dollars. And what members, your member of Congress, if they got any clout, they in a room somewhere, somebody asks them who should we send money to. Find out who they are. Don't make them work for you. It's a difficult job, really. And I'm taking up, we got some of the 535 of the baddest, people who represent our country. But it's a world thing now. I'm a child of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So this world has so changed now in the 21st century, but it's about y'all. What we can do as an old woman retired is help you get in the rooms where you need to be. Use us. Use us. I'm not going to a whole lot of meetings, but I can help some of you all get in some of them. Make them get some money to you. It's about dollars and it's about people. We don't have a whole lot of money, but we got people. Children who are hurt, people getting killed in the street, shot 16 times on the ground. A guy yesterday in Chicago got shot 13 down, he out. Come on, it's America. What's Trump's slogan? Or make America strong again? Yeah, he's talking about for him and them billionaires. And a few people along the way, but it's not just money. This is a world economy that we live in. The economy around the country is tepid at best. Don't know where the next bomb's gonna go off. The husband and wife team, that's deep right there. Think, don't give up. the struggle continues. We can win. Get with people who believe what you believe and get inside that group and change it. They need you. A lot of old people, we don't want to move over. I've moved. Some people don't, but you can get in and make a difference because you're brilliant. You're blessed. Let's do this.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Jones, and I'm elated to hear this illustrious panel. My co-host on True 360, Holiday, Melody, Vanessa. All of this amazing work is outstanding. And in recent months, we have been doing a tremendous amount of work, and I was so pleased to hear Holly highlight economics, on financial literacy, on economic empowerment that needs to parallel our political empowerment. And today, a question that I have is, in all of our branding, we're talking to some of the top branding experts in the country and world to get this financial literacy message out. And we have insurance carriers backing it where we have money, but we're still coming back to the same kinds of free social medias, YouTube. I've heard about Blab, Periscope, to get the message out. Is there anything being done to get this message that we have the document, we have the website, we have the Twitter and so forth, but to get some video, some voice? Because if I could have captured a video of today's panel just to have it on YouTube and keep pushing it through social media, it would be powerful.
So, thank you, Jennifer, and I must pay you later. We have recorded this, so it will be available on essence.com following this. So we encourage you to go there and to share it broadly. We, of course, understand that Black people are well represented in all forms of social media pretty equally, except Twitter. And Twitter, Black Twitter is real, y'all. In Twitter, we actually are 12% higher than any other demographic. So if you're looking, if you can't do everything and it all gets a little confusing, start with Twitter, because that's where most Black people are. We certainly have that on the flyer, and I actually want to call your attention to two flyers. The Black Women's Roundtable flyer at the bottom has our Twitter handle and hashtags, and also the Essence flyer has their Twitter handle and hashtag, and these are going to be some real key points of information for us, not just today, but as this cycle continues. We are just getting started. I mean, it feels like we've been in this presidential cycle forever already, and we're still 11 months away from the general. So we wanted, and as a result, that's why we want to get this information out early. So bookmark these pages on your browser and just keep coming back to them because they'll all be consistently updated.
I think we have time for two more questions. Yeah, I just wanted to ask. That's right. Thank you. I'm jumping in away, but just wanted to say, you know, as I am struck by your question, and it raises a concern, and I don't know how we handle this, and probably coming back with another question. And I'll start by saying I appreciate the relationship that the Black Women's Roundtable has with Essence Magazine. I think that's excellent. But I would like, you know, I represent 205 Black-owned newspapers with millions of followers on our websites, our social media. And then, you know, I guess my concern is how utilizing that civil rights approach, we don't operate in silos. Because if I do this over here, then it's mine, and it's not considered yours. This is our issue. And so I don't think, unless there's something that I'm missing where there's contracts or whatever, that we need to be inclusive. We need to utilize all of our organizations to promote this information. So I would see not only this video, you know, with Essence, with Black Press USA,
artists have put the film Black Friday together, right? And they're doing an underground, kind of whole grassroots across cities where they're just doing pop-up campaigns to force these conversations. And one of the challenges that I know we've been talking about in the Black Voters Alliance is taking all of the collective power we have across all media and really leveraging them to get our people to the polls and engaged in the conversation. And so in pushing the poll, I know that the branding people are telling us short words, which is why I'm not surprised about Twitter, and visible things is what's touching the Black community. And if you see Nielsen and so many other venues, they are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to target our money, trying to target our commerce, our economics, but not our agenda. And so since those portals are opening through what they want, we've got to leverage those same portals for what we want. And I just want to be able to have as many tools on the playing field that people are paying attention to.
Thank you. I think we have a couple more questions, but I just want to acknowledge someone who's in the room. Latavia, when do you want to just kind of wave your hand, let people know you're here from Hillary Clinton's campaign?
Hi, ladies. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for having us.
Okay, I see one here, and then back there.
Hi, good morning, ladies. I'm retired Colonel Warren Christopher, U.S. Army, and I am thrilled. I'm also a single dad of two amazingly talented, beautiful Black women, and so I'm so amazed that I get to witness this and to share with them, you know, and hope that they would aspire to be like this panel today. You know, having been in the military, I've had a great introduction of what post-traumatic stress disorder is all about. And I will just submit to you, in my humble opinion, that our community, the Black community, suffer from historical post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I would like for you all to address or to help me understand, as I'm mentoring and continue to raise my two daughters and others in my community, what can we, unity is a really big word. It's a really big word that I am confident that we've strayed far, far away from it. And it's going to take more than a season to get us back to it. What can we really do? What is the real blueprint, the top three things that we can do today in our communities? One, to address historical PTSD in our community that prevents us from unifying, and then to really get to how we begin to make sure that our economic power counts, how political power counts, how we matter in the community. You all know rhetoric is nice, but it takes some action. It takes some boots on the ground to get it done.
I know we have so many more people who want to ask questions, but we're out of time. I really apologize for that. But thank you so much. Please help me in thanking our panelists for their Melanie Campbell for some final comments.
Can we please give our moderator and our sister and quiet storm, so I think I'm gonna start calling them. So thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, panel, thank our co-hosts, thank all of you. What we'd like for everybody to do is remember to go to BWR Voter Guide 2016.org. And even if I think you Google it now, Black Women Journal, it's probably popular and populated. And just join us. This is the beginning of our Power Sister Vote campaign, if you will. And you'll be hearing much more from us. And I have had to acquiesce with the young people and do all this social. I'm not on Tumblr and that yet. So y'all left that with Pinterest and that. But I'm tweeting and all of that. And so we have to make sure we take these messages to heart and really mobilize in a way that makes sure that at the end of the day, I think it was Avis that said it, we're not gonna let anybody just take us for granted or take us, right? It's too much at stake. Our lives are at stake, and our young people deserve to have the kind of future that many of us were blessed to have, and especially our foreparents and foremothers and forefathers who did all the work, really. Took a lot more risks than we take every day. So thank you all for being here, and we appreciate you all, and have a blessed rest of your week. And April, I'm so sorry. April, who is our Image Award nominee.